Hi, everyone. Welcome. We were just backstage, and I said, I hear my voice doubled. And I said, I feel just so privileged and honored to be here tonight with my good friend Dan Nadel. We've been friends for 20 years, and his fantastic biography is out today. And of course, to be here with Robert Crumb.
Mr. Guttural Yelp himself.
Mr. Guttural Yelp himself.
Oy.
Yeah, we were
come
standing
back to haunt
backstage, and Robert was like, "Why? Why did you have to write that? That doesn't sound that good."
Guttural Yelp? What the fuck does that mean?
You didn't make any note of it when you read the manuscript, so clearly something resonated in print.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a little too late now.
Right,
Too late, man.
Too late.
Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe for the paperback, we can call it a symphonic Yelp, or
A symphonic scrunch.
Yeah. Maybe a whimper.
yeah, whimper.
Hey, there you go.
There we go.
A loud whimper.
Yeah. Anyway, so here we are in New York, which Robert told me on the way here he does not like. But
I'm too sensitive for this town.
See, you're talking to two highly sensitive individuals.
we're really
too.
sensitive. Yeah.
Both of us.
Yeah. But yeah.
Good, well, I hope so.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so I guess we should start talking about the book.
And let's I hope we're not too boring. I don't know what's...
No, we're going to be interesting. I think it's going to be
we'll
good.
be entertaining.
The
Yeah.
worst thing you can do is bore the people. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
True.
No, we're going to commit to being of interest.
What kind of pen do I use? Yes.
Yeah.
Use it.
The questions ask
I used to
themselves.
use the Hunts 102, but and I switched to this other one.
Smash cut to the audience, like, yeah.
Okay.
Drooping. Okay. So I think I'm just going to start with a very obvious question to the two of you, and you can answer and discuss among yourselves and with our
Okay.
audience.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm all ears. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah.
Mr. Sticklock
yeah.
over here. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Okay. I'm going to start. And I'm going to
Keep
ask.
them laughing.
I know.
How did the book come about? What was, Dan, you approached Robert?
Yes.
When was it? How were you kind of percolating with the idea of doing
Around
this biography?
2017 and into 2018, my friends Ronnie and Sammy were working. Ronnie's here somewhere.
Ronnie Bronstein and Sammy Harkin.
Yes, I wasn't going to give their last names because they may not want to be, identified.
Really?
No, it's an honor and a privilege,
Yeah,
you mentioned.
honor and a privilege. They were working on your Dream Diary publication,
Yeah.
and we were texting a lot about you and all things you. And at the same time, a bunch of biographies had recently come out of cartoonists, of Harvey Kurtzman, of Charles Schultz, of George Harriman. And I also was really stuck on wanting to write long form about comics in some way. And I love biographies. So it just kind of came to me that I should write a biography of Crumb because it would allow me to write about a huge chunk of the history of American comics, and then that sort of funnels into him to write about things like Karl Barks's Donald Ducks or Little Lulu and graphic satire and Mad.
Yeah.
And to write then also about the underground comic scene and then what came after. So I realized I could cover a lot of ground through his life. And
Yeah.
I started writing a letter, and in fact,
So Crumb, you're saying, was actually marginal to the project.
Yeah, I was just looking.
In fact, you were just looking at a way to sort of draw out the history of comics.
Yeah,
in the
it could have been
20th century.
anyone.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I know.
I just wanted to make sure, yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have also harbored a lifelong deep interest in Robert's work and had interviewed Robert once and written about him in the past, and Robert, to me, sort of was my gateway into grown-up comics as a 13 or 14-year-old, and kind of just altered my brain chemistry, like he did a lot of other people. That I know, much to my whoever's chagrin. And actually, Ronnie helped me write a letter to Robert.
He did?
Oh, yes.
Ronnie helped you write that letter?
Absolutely. And you took 6 months to respond.
It's a Jewish conspiracy.
It is. It's a Jewish conspiracy.
Yeah, Jews do run the media.
We really do run things. It's unbelievable.
Look at you, bracketed by two Jews in New York.
Putting the pressure on.
Yeah.
Confirm my worst paranoias.
Yes, good. Good. So, I mean, then I sent it to Robert, and he said, if you're serious about it, come to France. And I did, with my wife Elisa. We flew over and spent a really nice weekend at Robert's place, and eventually he gave in.
And here we are, bosom buddies. It's all worked out, yeah.
Robert, how was it from your perspective when you got that letter? Were you like, yeah, it's time for a biography, and this guy seems like the right person to do it, or did it take a lot of convincing? Or
Well, a couple other guys earlier had wanted to write biography of me, but they didn't know anything about the comics world. So Nadel, he's steeped in all the comic context things. So I thought, hey, this guy could actually write something that, put me in some kind of perspective for people, not just some crazy hippie comic artist out of the blue, He understood where it all came from and all that, so, and
So you started then and there, I mean, on that weekend, to sort of your process of, I want to hear about
the process?
I mean, or just the conversation that started. Okay, listen.
He's getting bored, Naomi. We got it.
We got
Ironically, there's a review of your book in Harper's, and all the guy wrote about was what a pervert I am. He used the word pervert like 6 times. 6 times. What a weirdo pervert family I came. He didn't say anything about the comics and the history, all the stuff that you care about and are interested in. But it's all in the book. He took it all out of the book.
It's all there.
Yeah, so
it's all there for people to read. These people will read.
That seemed to all that interested this reviewer.
Okay, so
that
I'll
was
ask
not.
you,
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to get into. I had seen the film, which I loved, and I knew your sort of public persona through interviews, and it was really important to me to write a book about this artist that I love, and the context in which he exists, and to kind of take it out of the grotesque and out of the sensational and really tell it straight.
Well, obviously you failed miserably. This guy.
I mean, it can only do so much.
I can only, I can't change the facts. It is what it is.
But it is, okay, but I'm going to ask a thing that might be more interesting than although I do want to hear about like how and, when. I know because I read in the book that when the documentary came out in 1994, you felt a certain type of way, but I mean, you felt ambivalent about it at the very least, right?
Well, it's excruciating to watch for me personally, but outside that, the reviews were divided between the people who said, Jesus, what a weirdo pervert, and his whole family are sick and twisted people, and like half the reviewers wrote about it that way. And then there's this other kind of reviewers who probably felt maybe that I represented all weirdos, including them, and so that they could, it made them feel better about themselves. I mean, there's two different kinds of reviews. It was very divided that way,
Right.
So,
but I guess my question is...
It's the same thing with this book, I think.
Exactly. So I'm wondering now that the biography is out and you read it yourself, and now many other people will read it.
Actually, I haven't read it yet.
You haven't read it.
Well, you read the manuscript.
Yeah, you read the manuscript.
And made notes on every page.
Yeah.
I did, yeah. I spent 3 weeks on that manuscript.
You sure did, and those PDFs scared the hell out of me.
So does that feel like, are you feeling okay with the kind of like it's not sensationalizing, but it is a portrait of your life, so of course it includes, you're going to read it now?
Well, yeah. So on page 106, you say...
Uh-oh.
I'm just wondering how, if you were kind of prepared to be the subject of the...
Prepared?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm asking.
How do you be prepared for this?
I mean,
You did say yes.
Yeah, you said yes.
And
so.
you'd already had the film made about you. So,
Right, exactly.
So you must have been prepared in some way.
It's really weird. Deja vu is happening all over again, the whole thing that happened after the film came out. So on page 106, you say, where is this now? That yeah. It is the first time Robert allowed sexual aggression into his work, with the implied adolescent reasoning that women prefer an aggressor as opposed to a wallflower like the artist himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And?
Okay, there was no reasoning involved.
Implied.
Implied. There's no reason.
You are not
It was completely intuitive. This stuff is, I was on LSD when I drew this. The reasoning was gone. Left in the dust.
Of course, but...
So you kind of
You think I fudged it there a little bit?
So, Dan, was it difficult
Otherwise,
to
it's a
write this
great book.
biography? Yeah.
Yes.
No, real question.
Yeah.
Was this the way it was the whole way
No.
through?
No.
Okay. I mean, thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
Well,
Because I have to be free to interpret. So my interpretation of that is, I'm not saying that Robert was carefully thinking out how he might express his adolescent rage at the women who ignored him. I'm saying it came out in the work, and you expressed it quite explicitly in your journals when you were a teenager, your anger at the women who preferred the jocks. That's all right there in writing.
I'm still a little bitter about that.
I know. You shouldn't. I mean, things worked out. But no, I mean, the process was...
You know why it worked out?
Why?
Fame.
It worked out. It was working out before you got famous.
Not really.
Yeah, I've read the journals. I know what you were up to.
In '68, everything changed. When I was suddenly the darling of the hippies, everything changed.
I know, that happened.
Suddenly there was all these cute babes like lining up. Wow, it was all new to me. It made my head spin. Yeah, you know all this.
I know.
You've heard it all before.
They may not know. They haven't read the book yet. No, but the process was, Robert's archives in France are in his home and in a couple of giant armoires that are teeming with meticulously organized files.
And he read it all. He took it all home and read it all. Wow.
I took pictures of all of it and then
Did
went
you
home
just
and
literally take pictures of every... Wow.
Yeah, because otherwise I would have had to stay
Hundreds
there
of
for
pages
months.
of letters and diaries and notes. And
wow.
Thousands.
I was very
of
impressed
pages.
by that. He's a monster researcher. This guy. He went and found women that I'd had affairs with 40 years ago. I hadn't spoken to for 40 years.
They were just waiting to tell their story.
Talk to them. Wow. I was amazed he found those women. Wow. And fortunately, I asked him, so what did they say about me? And he said, well, actually, none of them had anything really too bad to say about me. What a relief that was.
I mean, thank God. Did you get in touch with anyone after he found them? Like, did you get back in touch with people at all? No.
Well, one person.
One person?
Is coming this week.
Oh, Mary, right. Yeah, Mary's coming, that's right. I haven't seen her for 35 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. How about that? Literature can bring people together, Naomi.
I mean, really,
honestly,
it can.
Yes.
Yeah, but Dan and Robert, I guess, arriving to write a definitive biography like this at our current cultural climate, I don't want to say cancel culture, but I'll say cancel culture. Any, sort of like a kind of lack of flexibility, let's say, about
lack of flexibility.
Let's say lack of flexibility about the variety of ways human experience can figure itself.
That's one way of
Wow, that was well put. I mean,
Thank you.
it's so eloquent.
And
I'm liking that, yeah.
And Robert with the
With the crumbness of it all.
with the crumbness of it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was I'm curious to hear from both of you if that was something that was discussed from the start or how you thought about it, because I have to say, I mean, I read the book. It would be amazing if I didn't read, if I hadn't.
That would have been incredible.
Just like sitting here. But I think the
We
book,
just did this 'cause
the book
she's
does a really amazing job, I think, of being very straightforward about Robert's
About my
work.
perversions.
Your perversions, yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
your whatever, political kind of contextualizing your politics in the moment at which it emerged and how you grew up. And you say at one point, Dan, I don't remember exactly the wording, but you say, yeah, this comic was racist because America is racist.
Yeah.
And it's both an indictment and a self-indictment in a sense. I'm misquoting, I'm sure, but something to that effect. And similarly with depictions of women in Robert's work. And and so I'm just...
I mean, the condition, when Elisa and I were in France staying at Robert's, and he agreed to the book, it was like noon, and we had gotten in the day before, and finally I just couldn't take it anymore, and I asked him if I could do it. And he said yes, and the condition he put on my writing it was that I deal frankly and honestly with the charges of sexism and racism and misogyny.
Well, you have to.
In the work.
You have to. You can't pussyfoot around that because then you'll be criticized if you didn't address it.
But also, you're aware enough of your legacy to know that you want it dealt with, is my sense.
I guess so, yeah. I guess that's right.
So, I mean, my take on it was, I wasn't nervous about taking it on, probably naively, but I also felt like I was in really good hands, like a great editor and really interesting people to talk to about all of this. And so I just felt like you can't get around that in that moment, particularly in the 60s, things were done specifically to push as far out as possible. And the idea of people being harmed by that was just not a factor. It just wasn't part of the equation.
No, it wasn't.
And so you have to be able to say, well, yeah, the work is objectionable, but it is also indicting the thing that it is.
We were young punks and we wanted to be outrageous and break all the taboos and everything, in our 20s and 30s. And what? Why do you... Oh, it's these old people clapping now.
They're still...
They remember, Crumb broke the taboos.
But I think one of the interesting things is that, the way you are talking about it now is a kind of in a larger political context, but I think what's one of the things about your work is that it's kind of like psychologically, like the difference between like your id is very strong in the work.
Yeah.
And your super ego is extremely weak.
My super ego's weak?
I can't say, I'm not a doctor, but I think it's, you let yourself.
Oh, super, you mean like the
cop.
The little granny that sits up there and says, oh, nasty, don't say that.
Right.
Well,
The cop is
she
very...
was always up there.
She was up there?
Little school marm was always there saying, tisk, 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 tisk.
So was she there?
Yes, she was.
She was.
Always there, but I just had to like
Right.
shut the door on her, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. I can't actually explain it myself. I can't explain what my motivation was. He can explain it much better than I could. He did a pretty good job of, you know, he's 30 years younger than me, a different generation. He wasn't even around in the 60s. Wow. You weren't even alive, right?
No. No, 1976. You were...
Incredible.
Yeah, you were living in...
I was already old when you were born.
You were old when I was born. Well, you were old when you were born.
Well, yeah, there's that. That's true.
So...
That's quite true, yes. I've kind of...
What do you think to the school marm, yes or no?
I think the thing about Robert that's so fascinating is that he had to make this work.
I had to, yes.
But at the same time...
I don't know why I had to, but I did, yeah.
Well...
Had to come out.
You know, there was Catholic guilt, there was rebelling against the strictures you felt.
That whole thing that also you talk about, this compulsion, I had to take the heat.
You had a compulsion to walk out in the street and see if somebody hit you with a rock.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
it hit me right in the mouth.
It sure did, again and again and again.
That's right. So there was that. I don't know what that's about.
Well, it's a messiah complex. You want to go... You want to go out as far as you can and show people what you think they must know.
Awaken their consciousness somehow?
Awaken their consciousness.
Their stupid, reckless behavior or something like that?
Or a lot of your work is like a flashing red light of, hey, you know, America is racist, America is misogynist, America is built on lies. And these are things that you learned from, you know, Harvey Kurtzman and Mad Magazine. You learned that things were not true, that the surface was a lie.
Yeah, I learned that from, at a young age, looking at Mad comics, Yeah, in the 50s. That was the first,
you were like
first thing I
8
ever
or
saw.
9 when you figured that out.
Well, just that cover of Mad number 11 with the Lena the hyena on the cover, and that just...
Basil Wolverton,
look at that. Oh my God, that just shatters all the whole 50s illusion that they were trying to...
Why? What was it about that cover?
Well, it was a takeoff on Life magazine, which at that time was this revered institution, you know. And I never saw anything making fun of the culture like that before. And I saw that cover at the newsstand, you know. And wow, that just... Everything changed at that moment in a way, you know. It's like 1953, 54, somewhere in there, that came out. So... And then it just went on from there, getting more and more alienated day by day.
Yeah, I mean, when I read your journals from when you were in junior high, your 8th grade journals, it's deeply alienated. I thought I was alienated at that age.
Yeah, I was a fucking weirdo,
Yeah, well, you weren't that weird. You were just...
I didn't think I was that weird, but everybody else thought I was.
No.
Did that change for you when you became, I mean, you were talking about the effects of fame on your relationships with women and so on, but of course it affected a lot of other things, like a sense of a sudden acceptance. Was that strange?
It was a big, sudden change.
Yeah.
1968, 69 in there when that happened, big change. But fame is a kind of a weird sort of acceptance, you know? It's like you're accepted partly because of your freakiness, you know, something in some way that, so you still don't feel normal necessarily, but suddenly there's some people in the culture think you're terrific for something you did, you know, so.
Well, but also, I mean, you gave interviews as early as 69, like early 69, talking about underground comics as a movement. You were very gung-ho on this idea that this was something that was going to revolutionize. So the fame gave you a platform to push forward.
Right.
But you didn't totally trust it. Like you didn't like luxuriate into it, I guess, or...
Yeah, to some extent I luxuriated in it, yeah.
Right.
I ate it up, I was young, I was a fool.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm planning a whole story I'm going to write about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Say more.
Huh? Yeah, I don't like to talk about what I'm going to do, but, what a fool I was when I was young. I felt all these businessmen offered me free plane ticket to New York. Oh boy, a free plane ticket to New York. And I get there, and the first thing they want to do is sign me up for 5-year exclusive contracts. Everything I would do would be for them.
Right.
Nothing I do. And I was fortunate I was smart enough not to fall for that. So.
Right, so you weren't such a fool.
I was fool enough to take the ticket.
What's wrong with taking that's great, you got to New York.
I got to New York, and I got to see my friends in New York, so yeah.
Sounds like it turned out just as it should have.
Not exactly, but I'll leave all the details to the story.
I mean, you drew a story called Dumb about yourself.
I was dumb, yeah.
But the thing about you that I've noticed over the years, and also looking in your archive and all your correspondence, is you do have an amazing, like Naomi said, you took the plane ticket, you didn't sign the deal, so you're more savvy than you ever let on, in my opinion.
Well, let's put it this way, I wasn't that stupid. Come on, here's these guys.
A lot of people were.
These guys trying to cash in on the hippie culture and five-year exclusive contract. What are you kidding?
No, it's like, where do I sign, Mr. Barry Gordy?
Yes,
the joke
exactly.
Of just like being taken for a ride, like so many
people of your generation and
Yeah.
ours and every generation
Yeah.
are taken for rides with that exact promise.
Well, I got taken on some rides too, and I wasn't that smart, but I got taken for a ride by those motherfuckers that made that Fritz the Cat movie.
Well, that's true. Well, except you had given power of attorney to your wife.
Yeah, and I copped out and ran away and left her to deal with those jerks, and she wanted the money, so she signed the contract. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's on, that's on you.
yeah.
Dan, did you from the start have the sort of relationship with Robert where you could say like straightforwardly like
No.
What?
right?
No.
Yeah, because I'd be scared. I think like
I mean, Robert, I remember, no, it took a while. I mean, the Sove trip was great when we were all staying at your place.
Don't mention the name of the village.
I won't. I just did.
well, it's in the book.
it's
Sorry.
Oh, is? Fuck. Really?
It's in Wikipedia. It's on Wikipedia.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
I mean,
Never mind.
just
Never
don't bother him. You don't want to do that.
It's far away.
It's far. It's so far. No, I didn't. It took a while to warm up. I mean, I think it took a couple of visits before I could sort of, before we could actually really just kind of banter back and forth. But I had to know a lot. I had to understand that, like, the stories that Robert had told, I knew intuitively that they had other sides, but I had to actually have the evidence, which is all in Robert's archives and other people's archives, to help kind of piece it all together. Like when I listened to the entire, 12 or 13-hour interview you did with Marty Pauls in 1986.
You listened to that whole thing?
Yeah, of
Oh
course.
my God.
Yeah, my poor family.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I tried to listen to that in a couple of years. I got, after a half hour, I'd had it.
I was on the job. I was on the job, man.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, no, I mean, I eventually...
monster researcher, I'm telling you. Wow. I'm profoundly impressed by the amount of research you were willing to do.
Thank you. Yeah, it took some time.
When I gave you all those letters from my brother and stuff like that, and you told me you read them all, wow, I was really amazed.
Well, those are this is the letters from Charles.
Right.
Those are fabulous letters.
And they could be a book, actually.
They're so sad and so beautiful. They're just the beautiful,
He wrote well.
flowing
He could write well, yeah.
prose. It's always like prose that sort of goes back in on itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just read the tragedy in every line.
Yeah, well, he's ill, and he knows he's ill, and he knows he can never escape.
That's right.
So it's decades of these letters.
Yeah,
where
that's the main
he's-
thing I remember from the documentary, the interviews with Charles.
He's
Oh, yeah,
completely
yeah.
self-aware.
Yeah.
Yeah? Huh. Wow.
Yeah, it was very, yeah, it was
A lot of people
moving.
have said that, actually.
really,
That was the most moving moment in that
Yeah,
documentary
yeah.
was Charles and talking, and I'm over there like laughing nervously while he's talking.
Yeah.
that's understandable too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very understandable because, you know, it's an incredibly sad story, Crumbs,
Yeah.
Robert's family. I mean, it is
Tragic.
It is
is,
tragic.
yeah.
And in some ways, the hardest part of writing the book was dealing with Robert's sadness, and then also taking it on board and feeling sad myself. You have to sort of inhabit it. Oh yeah, I got over it. It's okay. With the help of therapy.
Dan's in therapy. Yeah.
Still,
He is, actually.
yeah, it's true.
The wonder of therapy.
You're being interviewed by two Jews in therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Unbelievable, both of us.
But as Aileen's grandmother said,
Yeah.
he loves the Jews.
That's what Aileen's grandmother said about you?
Some old lady that she knew at this dinner was looking at me suspiciously and goes up to, whispers to Aileen's grandmother, "Is he Jewish?" And she said, "No, but he loves the Jews."
Oh, that's nice.
God bless.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, I don't love every Jew. Come on.
None of us do.
I mean, who does? Robert, do you feel, moving right along, do you feel, as the years have gone on, obviously so much of the work was powered by this sort of like young man's
Anger,
anger, and
angst, and
libido, and all
self-pity.
right.
Self-pity was my constant companion in my youth.
Do you feel that as the years have gone on,
I was like those incels. I was like one of those
right,
guys.
but you made great art instead of
thank you.
shooting up a school,
That's true.
Yeah.
Or shooting up drugs, either one.
or that, yeah.
I fortunately escaped that fate.
As the years have gone on, do you feel did you feel yourself kind of like the motivation for
Sure.
the work you've made and the
Changed, yeah.
yeah,
Well, a lot of things became much more self-conscious.
Yeah.
I got all these articles right away praising my work. Like, guy wrote for Playboy. Remember that article? In Playboy?
Jacob Brackman.
He said I was this great cartoonist. So every time I sat down to draw, I'm a great cartoonist. What am I going to do now? It became very self-conscious.
Did you feel that it stopped? How did you get over that to make the work kind
I
of
just had to keep pushing through.
yeah,
I had to be very persistent.
yeah,
And, while I'm working on it, I think this is no good. I've had it, I'm washed up, or, I've lost my touch or whatever. And then maybe 5 years later, I look at it and say, hey, that's actually pretty good,
yeah.
I didn't beat myself up so much. That's actually pretty good.
And that has been consistent over
Yes.
the years?
Yeah.
The sort of beating yourself up?
Even when I was doing the original Zap comics, I thought, this is stupid, but, it's funny about that.
Yeah, it's
That
hard.
that I was always, as well as a little old puritanical lady, there's like this George Sanders type critic. Oh yes, this is not as good as your previous work, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That's true, and that critic finds its way into your sketchbook all the time. There's always this voice in that sketchbook talking to you,
Yeah, right.
talking back to you,
Yeah.
criticizing you.
It's funny about all that. Yeah, you have to just get pushed past all that to do anything. And unfortunately, there's lots of people that like to aspire to do that, but that just paralyzes them.
Yeah.
Paralyze people.
Yeah, the paralysis.
How have you pushed past it? I mean, over the years, you've, meditation.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Just ego, probably, mostly. My ego's just bigger than most people's. It's probably what it comes down to.
You mean your need to compete, or your need to prove it
need-
to yourself, or what?
Yes, all that shit. Yeah. all that stuff, to compete, to prove that I can still do it. I don't know. And if I don't do it, I just feel like life is meaningless.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of artists will say that if they're not working, they're nothing. If I'm not working, I'm nothing. I'm just a cipher. I'm just another spastic geek in the world. You know? Really.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I can't do anything. I barely tie my shoes. I'm completely incompetent in every other way. I need people to take care of me, to hold my hand. You know.
Yeah.
What'd
Silence. No, I just said that let's give this. I mean, I get it. It's work is very difficult, but also completely essential to your sense of self.
Yeah, it's who I am.
Yeah.
My brother Charles, he kind of, if he hadn't forced me by humiliation to do that from childhood, I'd probably be a postal clerk or something. Really.
Yeah.
Did you ever forcefully try to decouple your sense of self from the work you made in all your meditations and astral projection?
Sure.
And?
Of course. Yeah. Well,
how close did you get?
You have to do that.
Yeah.
Gotta do that sometimes. You have to decouple from it. Otherwise, I think you could get into some kind of terrible rut.
Huh. What do you mean? Can you explain that?
If your ego's too attached to your work, you know?
Yeah.
The ego's really a destructive thing to creativity. Mm-hmm. You know, so you always have to overcome the ego. And part of that is you really got to detach. That's what LSD was great for that. Detach me from
it's ego death.
This identity that was so deep in me about being this cartoonist, and so it actually made me kind of like adhering to conventions too much. That my identity was so tied to that, being a professional cartoonist. So LSD broke me out and said, "This is ridiculous. Just this cartooning is just a dumb thing. It's no big deal. You know."
But after LSD,
even being a scientist or being the fucking king of England, it's all dumb stuff.
But you didn't continue to think that way, right? It appears from what you were saying.
Yeah, the ego came back. It does.
It came back.
Yeah, it does after a while. But then you have to keep breaking out of it again all the time. Just break through the vice-like grip of the ego on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do that.
It is, yeah. It's always a challenge, always.
Yeah.
And yet maybe you have to be a little crazy, a few screws loose to really disassociate from the ego, because the ego is the thing that always wants you to be correct. Mm-hmm. To write correctly, to draw correctly, and so to cut loose from that, you get to be a little nuts.
Yeah, it's very scary.
Yeah. It is. You're in the fringe. You're in the frontier. There's no book of rules. There's no map. There's no chart. You're out there.
Yeah. I'm wondering about. I guess I'll ask a question. This wasn't a question from the audience, but I feel like people would want to know if you keep up with young cartoonists today,
yes.
and what are your...
I do.
What do you like?
I'm inspired by certain young cartoonists whose work I see. It inspires me, actually.
Yeah.
Because the youthful energy, it's like having a young girlfriend or something. It's really inspiring.
Are you in touch with people, in conversation with people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in touch with this young woman cartoonist in Switzerland named Simone Baumann. She's great. She's in her 20s. She's totally wacky. She's nuts. She's been in therapy, and her parents just completely disapprove of her. And she just turns out this great, hilarious cartoons in Zurich, Switzerland. Because it can come from anywhere. Just energy.
Do people just send stuff to you?
They do, yeah. I actually met her when I was in, where was I? I was in Lucerne in Switzerland for some show, and I was sitting at this table in this cafe and talking to some people, and this girl comes up and says, here's this book I did, and she handed it to me, and she starts to go away, and I start looking, and I thought, wow, this is actually good. Because 80% of the time, it's no good, you know.
Sure.
Young person had just something that's a bunch of slop, but this was really good. And so I turned to her, hey, this is really good. Send me some more. This was number 48 of her little book, her little zine that she does, you know.
Yeah.
Said, send me the rest of them, you know. So she did, wow.
Do you still, I mean, I know that the comic book
Yes.
was, you know, the kind of like
I'm
the,
still in love with that format, the comic book.
yeah. Do you feel like, will you, I mean, you were talking about the story that you were thinking about.
Yeah.
Are you planning to?
I'm working on one now, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because now you have, obviously, there's a kind of a branch of your work that is now fine art, you know?
Sure, I'm in this Werner Gallery. You kidding?
No, I know. I know.
That's something.
Is that like strange to you that this, it's
Totally strange.
yeah.
Totally strange.
How do you deal with it? How do you kind of feel about the art world or kind of that interaction?
The art world, fine art world, it's a whole different thing from the comic world. The comic world is a scruffy little orphan compared to the
Right.
fine art world. The money, the wealth, and
Yeah.
you know, and most of that art, the art that they do, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not my cup of tea. I'll
Right.
tell you that. But
But
wow.
Dan, did you have
agree with that.
conversations with Robert about contemporary art? Because obviously you're just not.
I try to avoid
You
it.
avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've talked about I've shown
I'm
Robert.
very conservative that way.
Yes.
You know, I'm old school. I think that everything went wrong with abstract expressionism, and they still turning out that shit. Gee, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It goes on and on. Abstract. Come on, learn to draw, learn to paint from life, and something. They agree. Come on.
They agree.
Art world, get with it, okay? But who,
Robert loves Reginald Marsh.
Reginald Marsh.
Great artist. No, I mean, we talked about it a
Social
lot.
realism of the 30s, and then suddenly abstract expressionism just buried all that, just rolled over like a steamroller. But of course, I read that the CIA was promoting abstract expressionism.
It was a little more complicated than
It's
that.
neutral. Abstract expressionism is politically neutral. Doesn't make any. It's no political threat, no controversy. It's just, you know.
Do you feel that it's not, I mean, I wrote down a quote from the book that I thought was very interesting and well put. Robert's vision of culture is consistent. His critique is class-based. Consistent. His critique is class-based. The cake
Is
eaters,
what?
class-based.
Class-based.
Class-based, like class, social class.
Class baked?
Based.
Baked. Class baked. What is that? What do you mean by
Based in class.
Based in class.
based?
Yeah.
Oh, based in
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
The cake eaters, as he calls them,
Cake eaters, right.
suppress the roiling consciousness of America in favor of more bourgeois forms that cloak the messiness in a blanket of bland respectability.
That's beautiful. That I didn't say that. It's him, right?
Yeah, I'm quoting Dan.
That was me describing your
That's beautiful.
point of view.
Yeah.
It's not a point of view I agree with, but it is your point of view, I think.
I mean, I kind of agree with
Beautifully
it.
put.
I mean, it's like...
I agree
get-
with some of it.
Well, it depends what you call bourgeois bland respectability, I
Yes,
guess.
there's a lot of levels there.
Right.
Some people say or might say that the bourgeois acceptance is the kiss of death.
Some would say, but others would say it's a way to make a living.
Right.
Yeah, it's a way to make.
As you yourself
As
have
you
done.
yourself have done. I mean, you
To-
work
to
with...
great success.
That's
Yeah.
what that writer Tom Wolfe called the boho dance.
Yes, famous. Yes.
Bohemians dancing around the bourgeois. You know, we hate you. You're square. You're rigid. But we need your money. So
Well, and for for quite a while, you've taken the money.
Yeah.
I take the money. Sure, I take the money for it. If they want to pay a lot of money for my original artwork. Great, fine. Yeah, I'll take it. I love Zwirner. They're great. They're good to me.
Keep
They're
those
good to me. I
letters and
love those
checks
people.
coming.
Okay.
They take care of me. It's like if you were in the Renaissance and the Pope was your patron, you know. You're secure in the arms of power and money, you know.
But for somebody who's drawing, I mean, I'm not going to say what you're drawing, but given your proclivities towards paranoia, let's say.
Yes. Yeah.
And your desire to keep making comic books, floppy, cheap comic books.
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever feel a tug these days between those two worlds, or have you
Tug.
a tug between your wanting to be a sort of?
Well, I explained to Zwirner's that I'm going to have Fantagraphics publish that comic book because they know the comic market.
Right. No, internally, not to the external parties.
No.
You don't feel conflicted.
No.
That's good.
No.
Yeah.
As long as they take my work as it is, don't try and push me in some more arty-farty direction, I'm fine with them. You know, they're very cool about it. Zwirner's a very cool guy. You know, he doesn't say, "Come on, do some new work. Give us something to sell." He's not like that at all. You know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
He's not that kind of gallery guy. You know, he's cool. So.
It's the German spirit.
Yeah. And you know, I'm old enough so that it doesn't. If this happened to me when I was like 30, it might really spoil me.
That's actually a really
That's
good
an interesting.
point.
I mean, you did show in galleries when you were 30, but they were much more. I mean, it was pretty
real
low
key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You showed at a great avant-garde gallery in San Francisco.
What?
You showed at a great sort of avant-garde-ish gallery in San Francisco called the
Modernism?
Berkeley. The Berkeley.
Oh,
gallery.
that one. That was very early. Yeah, that was the Zap show or something like that.
That was a solo show.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
know
got
too much.
a few
Incredible. What a guy.
few questions from the audience here. A couple I feel like were kind of answered already in the conversation, but there's a couple of good ones. This is for Dan.
Oh.
Dan, what were the most painful things you had to cut from the book, and how did you decide to?
Did you cut anything?
A lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty thick tome. I mean,
It is a thick tome, yeah.
Jesus.
Painful things. I had written a lot more about. I was really interested in Mo Moskowitz and the Shankers.
Yeah.
Who had a company called Print Mint. It was sort of the first distributor for Robert.
Zap Comics.
Yep.
Mo Moskowitz put up $500 for us.
5,000.
5,000? That's
Oh wait,
no,
I can't remember now.
It was 500.
I have to check the book. Was it 500?
Yeah. I mean,
It was 500 for 5,000 copies, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was two retailers essentially who went back to Greenwich Village days in the 50s, and both arrived in San Francisco. Moskowitz had this amazing bookstore in Berkeley, Mo's Books, and the Shankers set up a framing shop inside the store, and then a poster shop, and then eventually a publishing company. And a
They became
distribution company.
successful first selling those psychedelic rock posters.
Before that, they were successful as framers, cheap frames.
Framers, huh.
Yes. And I was fascinated by this network of people who were trying to get the sort of nascent counterculture out into the world.
But you had to cut out that stuff?
I had to cut chunks of it out just to keep the narrative moving.
Yeah.
I was fascinated.
Lots of tangents, yeah, you could have gone on.
And Woody Gelman, I was fascinated by Woody Gelman, who
Interesting
gave
guy,
Robert an
yeah.
early job. And
This Woody Gelman worked at Topps Bubblegum Company in Brooklyn, so he gave me some work to do for Topps. A lot of cartoonists did bubblegum cards for Topps, a lot of cartoonists.
So, I mean, things like that were very, Art Spiegelman, of course.
Wally Wood.
Yep. Wally Wood, the best. There are a lot of things, that was sort of painful to cut out, that kind of stuff, that larger contextual stuff that was turning the book into a cultural history instead of a biography. It was sort of tilting in the wrong direction.
Well, I noticed Carol Engberg was really hoping to have a big part in that book, and you just gave her about like a couple sentences.
I had to cut some of Carol Engberg, yes. There was a lot more about her. This was a girlfriend of Robert's starting in the 70s. I know, and she was a great interview.
Yeah?
Robert,
But-
why were you hopeful that it would have more of her specifically?
She was hopeful.
Oh, she was hopeful.
Yeah, she,
Oh,
yeah.
It's hard. I mean, that's always hard. Like, I interviewed over 150 people, and a lot of people felt like they were the protagonist in your life. And no, seriously, not in like a gross way. Like, I get it. Like, you're in someone's life, and you've been with them through all sorts of stuff, and so you feel like
Yeah.
you are a part. And that's not the way that biography writing works when it's within a certain scope. It could have been a 1,000-page thing,
sure.
but nobody would have read it. So,
yeah.
you know, and also it needed to move. The book needed to move. Kind of like, I felt like it had to move like Robert's comics move.
It
like
does
a
move.
certain
What I
rhythm.
read of it, it moves. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It really does move.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It moves. It moves.
It moves.
Move.
You power the story along. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, another question from the audience. This is for Robert. Music is such an important part of your life.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
How does music inform your artistry as a cartoonist, specifically your interest in 1920s jazz?
Yeah, how does it inform my artwork?
Yeah, your work as a cartoonist.
Well, other than obviously doing like drawings of musicians who I admire, I don't know. That's about it, I guess. Yeah, I've drawn lots of drawings of musicians,
Yeah.
which I often did in exchange for 78s.
As you work, do you
I stopped doing that. I don't
listen?
want to do that.
Do you listen to certain things as
I
you?
can't listen to music while I work.
Really?
No.
So it's just it's an
It's-
off-work
Because
thing.
the music I like, I get so totally absorbed in it, I would lose my focus on what I was drawing. I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, when I listen, I really listen. Sometimes I close my eyes when I listen. I just want the music to fill me up, you know.
And
And
how?
I listen to
yeah.
78s very often, which, you know, you have to put the record on. It's 3 minutes. You put the needle on, you listen, and it's over. You have to take it off, put it back, take out another one, you know. So it's a whole kind of ritual that you go through with
And
listening to 78s.
how about your own musicianship? Like,
Yeah,
obviously, you are also a musician yourself.
Yeah, I enjoy playing music, yeah.
But it's a different. Do you have like obviously I'm sure you have a different relationship to that than
Yeah.
you do to cartooning.
Yes.
That ego thing we were
Not
talking
as-
about.
yeah, it's
is that not?
Not there. It's not there in the music.
Is it like pure pleasure or pure?
Yes. And I know I'll always be a second-rate musician. I'm not going to be a first-rate musician. I don't aspire to that. It's not why I do it. I do it just for pleasure, yeah. And for a while I was in a bands, and they wanted to perform. They wanted to, you know, to be the front man because I was well-known and all that. And that kind of started to kill it for me, so I had to quit doing that. Quit performing for money. Just play for pleasure. Keep the music for pleasure. Don't get all into the, you know, the money career kind of music thing.
Yeah. I wonder if because.
And that way also I just can play exactly what I like. I don't have to play just for what the kids out there are listening to. Fuck that. I just play what I want, what I like to play, you know.
Right. Yeah.
If they don't like it, then go somewhere else. I don't care.
That's another sort of like the respectable, the blanket of bourgeois respectability or something. Like you're not interested in that in music either, obviously.
No. Now I play a lot with my daughter.
Really?
Sophie, she's really a good musician.
What does she
singer.
play? What does she play?
She plays piano really well. She's way better than me, and plays guitar and sings really nice. And so I perform with her sometimes, and a couple other people in the village that are around there that, you know, perform locally in a gallery or someplace at a restaurant. Yes, that's nice. That's a nice thing. It's a pleasure. It's not. I don't feel that same kind of ego pressure with that.
Right.
It's nice, and then just play, you know, old-timey music, because I'm an old-timey kind of guy.
But again, you always were, right? Even when you
Yeah.
were a new-timey person.
I was never a
seemingly.
new-timey person, ever.
Okay, this is a good question from the audience. I think it actually might be the final one, maybe. So much of your work, Robert, exposes the weird in 20th century America. What does Robert Crumb find to be weird about 21st century America?
Weirder than ever. Are you kidding? Jesus Christ, this country is so fucking weird.
Are you relieved that you don't live here?
That I don't live here? I don't know. I mean, where I live is really nice. It's really nice.
It is. It's really nice.
It is.
It's extremely relaxing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I took great naps there.
Imagine that.
I know, imagine going home and relaxing.
Wow.
Why? It's crazy.
I couldn't live in this town. Jesus Christ, I couldn't. This town would kill me, but...
Well, you always, something Aileen said to me that kind of struck me in the process was, you all, except for Cleveland and San Francisco, which are only a few years each.
Yeah, that's right.
You always lived in the country.
Or in small towns, yeah.
Small towns. I mean, you were in the Central Valley of California,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right. Yeah.
and then the south of France.
Yeah. Yeah, I like living in a small town or in a rural area. I do, yeah. It's much more relaxing, yeah. I can't take this place much longer on. I got to get out of here. No, really, this town really anguishes me. I don't know. Well,
Do you have any favorite?
Walking down the street, look on 14th Street today, just looking at the people, the faces, oh my God.
Wait, what's wrong with the faces?
It's just so many people are deranged.
Oh, that.
A lot.
Well,
People of all races, all ages, all genders, deranged. That's anguishing to actually look in their
it's
faces.
not. Yeah, I mean, it's a failed state.
Listen,
Or nearing it, or
I don't know.
something.
Yeah.
Like it.
I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. Jesus.
Yeah.
yeah, you got to head for the hills soon.
And then there's some people that look real vicious and scary, and there's others that look just like hurt and somebody's just being mean to them all the time.
Yeah.
Their boss, or I don't know what. It's oof. Of
mean,
course, there's lots of beautiful girls, some beautiful women, everywhere in this town.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Just like, oh my God, look at that one. Oh, Jesus, look at that one. Oh, God. No, really, New York. Wow.
I mean, famously so, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they must flock here from all over the country because, for some reason, I don't know what they think they can accomplish here. I don't know.
Yeah, we've never heard of this.
Yeah, I don't know. People coming to New York
young,
to make it?
you know,
It's crazy.
ambitious people coming to New York.
Get it.
Is that what it is? It's ambition? That's what brings them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, New York, it's a hell of a town.
Yeah, I guess.
If you can make it there, you can make it
Make it
anywhere. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well, I tried. I spent 9 months here in my youth trying to make it in commercial art. I just gave up and went back to Cleveland. It was just too fiercely competitive. And you're working your ass off at like Topps Bubblegum Company, and they had an art department that had like 12 artists who worked there full time. They had a little room with all their drawing boards. And it's just the most depressed bunch of artists I ever met. They were all really depressed.
Yeah.
Depressed Jews, all of them. Really, really depressed. They're at 36th Street in the asshole of Brooklyn.
They call it Industry City now.
Yeah, that's what they call
Yeah,
it.
we just attended the bar mitzvah.
But
there.
Henry's bar mitzvah was there, yes. Yeah.
The asshole of Brooklyn. Wow.
Yeah. Well, now it's quite nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. Oh.
It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take you there.
Back then, the whole neighborhood smelled like bazooka bubble gum. Dude.
From the factory.
Yeah.
Wow.
They made the bubble gum.
Yeah.
Woody Gelman had a big bowl of bazooka bubble gum on his desk. You come into his office, hey, have a piece of bazooka gum. Really?
Did you chew it all day?
He would chew it. Yeah, he would chew it. And it was very fresh because it's straight from the factory. Really? It was.
Fresh bazooka gum.
Yeah.
Yum.
Okay. Do we want to, Dan? Do you want to say some closing words? Anything? I don't know. Robert.
Thank you, Naomi, for doing this. Thank you, Robert, for allowing me to write this book and being such a good sport. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
We're done? That's it?
I think so.
Okay.
We did it.
Can we go now?
We're done.
Okay. We're going now. Bye.